Buffalo. Thrown down. Brian Burns gets there. Spider-Man. What a pass rush by Burns. See how quickly he got to the edge and got
This is Desmond Johnson on the Bleav and Carolina Panthers podcast, here on the Bleav Podcast Network, the #1 podcast network for professionals. Do you Bleav? If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and rate the show on iTunes. We're available in your favorite directories: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Luminary, and TuneIn. You can also find us at Bleav.com and at Bleav Podcast on Twitter. Oh boy. Welcome to a brand new edition of the Bleav and Carolina Panthers podcast here on the Bleav Podcast Network. So I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by Sports Illustrated beat writer Schuyler Callihan and the Panthers' all-time leading rusher, Jonathan Stewart. Your Carolina Panthers have fallen to new lows, 1-9 on the season after a 33-10 defeat at home by the Dallas Cowboys. We'll talk a little bit about that. A lot to get to. I'm sure you guys actually just sitting there looking at the comments before we even went live. You guys are very frustrated with this franchise as I'm reading through some of this stuff. We'll get to all of that. Of course, it's always open mailbag here at Bleav in Panthers. So if you got something to say, if you're mad, of course, we got to tell them why you're mad today. And I'm sure there's plenty of things to point at here. Just a lackluster effort all the way around. It looked like Dallas didn't even want to be there on Sunday for most of the game. Like they were just kind of there because they needed to be. So and then they turned it on when they needed to. So we'll get into all that. I know a lot of you got questions about Frank Wright, the coaching staff. Schuyler's been in the building, so we'll get the latest on that and what might be happening over there, if anything at all, and just more. So glad you guys are here with us live here on a Tuesday. And before we get into the nitty-gritty of everything, let's just get our word in from Bet Online. The last of the major pro sports leagues is off and rolling, and college basketball is ready as well. Bet Online remains your top spot for all your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your #1 source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. All the hoops betting action, along with every sport available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and remember to use our promo code Bleav, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. And normally, we start off with the box score. I don't think we haven't had to do that for the past 2 weeks, so we're not doing that. But before we move off of the Cowboys, just kind of give me your thoughts on what you guys saw on Sunday. Because I'm starting to feel indifferent here. Like I realized that during the game, like I'm sitting there with my laptop, I'm doing something completely different. And I look up, I see the Panthers win. I'm like, well, they ain't gonna score. I start doing whatever. I look up again, they got the ball. Well, they ain't gonna score. Same thing. Like it flipped the whole day. Like, even when we got to 17-10 in the fourth, I was like, well, we can't score 20. So how are we supposed to win this football game? Like, that's the thoughts I'm having as I'm watching these games now. And you guys go first, because I feel like they're going to get Bryce Young hurt, and we'll get back to him in just a second. But Stu, what were your thoughts? First of all, were you at the stadium? Were you at the stadium Sunday?
No, I was at the house.
Bless your heart. All right. So what were your thoughts? Okay.
Man, my initial thoughts were, man, the defense is, playing strong, which gives you an opportunity to be competitive in any NFL football game. But then, the costly penalties, you can't have those, especially when you're playing a good football team. And, as a player, when you find yourself making penalties, or it's just fundamentals, right? It makes me question, like, are these guys getting the coaching? Are they being reminded of certain things they're supposed to be doing? Are they being reminded of, hey, don't reach, don't grab, play with your feet? You know what I'm saying? So be where your feet are, literally. If you're not there with your feet to make the play, you're out of position. So the penalties kind of threw me, obviously, to the edge of my seat, because it's like we're right there. We're that close in so many instances, and against the Dallas Cowboys. And you can tell that these guys are out there playing hard, especially on defense, man. They're out there flying to the ball, trying to make plays. I love how our safeties, react to the ball. And then you see the offense, right? We've known for the whole season we've been, battling protection. And it's just like I cringe watching Bryce in the pocket because it's just not the best thing to look at. As a fan, you want your number one pick to be safe. You want him to not get injured, and you want him to excel. And it's hard watching him because he doesn't have the pieces there to help him excel the way he ought to, right? And that's a broken record. One of the things that I did see, though, was the running game. And I was really happy about the running game. I thought that we got away from it a little too soon. If we would have stuck with it throughout the second half of the game, it could be a little bit of a different story. Time of possession. If you're struggling on offense and your defense is playing, to the best of their ability, you keep that ball. Their offense can't score. And you're not relying so much on the passing game, especially if the running game is working. Miles Sanders, I loved how explosive he was. It was good to see him, on one of the runs he had. He got caught in the backfield, made one quick move, jump cut to the right, and that was explosive. Those are the plays that I would love to see more drawn up for him, where he gets an opportunity to make guys miss, put them in space, make them miss. Now, obviously, that looked like an unblocked guy, but Chuba Hubbard, I feel like has been the most consistent piece in my mind through this offense throughout the year. So seeing him run the ball, running behind his pads, the typical Chuba. But yeah, man, it's just the penalties. It's beating yourselves, right? It's like, how do we not beat ourselves
at the worst times too? Like it's always like
pivotal plays. Yeah, pivotal moments in the game where I feel like I don't usually draw conclusions to the fact that, man, the penalties, like
I mean, it handed them 10 points in the first half.
Yeah, you can't really, and not just 10 points, it's momentum, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I think we got to figure out a way to really go into a game and have a clean game. It's going back to fundamentals of football. Don't face mask a guy, and don't blow up a guy when you're not supposed to.
Don't face mask a guy on the same play. Like I've never even seen that happen.
He wasn't letting him get in the end zone. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I appreciate the effort. I appreciate the effort all the way. But listen, buddy,
how in the world?
Be where your feet are.
I didn't believe it at first. They said it on the broadcast. I'm like, that's impossible. You can't horse collar and face mask a person at the same time. Like, how do you do? And then they showed it. I'm like, oh, he did. Oh, he really did it. How do you know?
And I want to say too, on the Deshaun Williams one, that's the one that you can't absolutely have. You can maybe live with the face mask and the horse collar in the same play. Yeah, it's terrible football, but Deshaun Williams, man, like, what are you doing? It's third down. You had them stop. They're getting ready to kick a field goal, which is not a guaranteed anything. And then 3 plays later, they're in the end zone dancing. Like, come on, man. When you're a team that's 1-8 or 1-9, the margin for error is like this. You can't overcome penalties like that. That's just not what this team is built to do.
And let's not excuse the fact that Dallas came in there basically expecting to kind of walk away, not taking the game seriously the first 3 quarters of the game.
It felt like a very vanilla game plan for them, didn't it?
Yeah, like they just were kind of like, all right, they almost treated it like a bye week. That's the way it felt to me until around the fourth quarter, and they got some separation, and then that pick six kind of just, that pick six is what it is.
And then Barno with the late hit, like. It's just,
man. Like,
you can't do these. You can't do. Isn't that coaching?
Now, I would tell you this though. I'm gonna tell you this because Tom Brady actually spoke about this on.
I heard this.
Podcast.
Yeah.
like football, like NFL's got to figure this out.
Oh, Stephen A.
Because
Smith.
because NFL does need to figure this out. I'm all for protecting players, but I played a position where we not protected at all. And you know what we have to learn to do?
Right.
We have to learn how to protect ourselves.
Yeah, I saw this.
That's exactly like how football should be played and how it should be viewed and how it should be structured and reffing and protecting the players is, hey, teach these guys to protect themselves. You're not just going to be able to go across the middle willy-nilly and just catch every ball. When the ball's thrown, you're going to have to position yourself in the air to protect yourself.
Right.
Okay. So, like, there's just certain, like, as a quarterback, like, yeah, he's not protected, but hey, if there's a guy in your face, that means you can't throw the ball. Like, tuck it. It's a sack.
Yeah.
It's a sack. Or run away. Or curl up, protect your head, and live to fight another down. But but those aren't the rules right now. So you gotta abide by the rules, and you gotta know going into the game. Like, I know when you see Dak Prescott back there about to, deliver a cannon, and it's like, oh, I have a shot to hit the quarterback. You gotta have the tameness, or what, is that a word? Tameness?
It is now.
It is now.
Yeah.
You gotta be tame. You gotta tame yourself, brother.
I mean, like the physicality and the violence of the game has been stripped away. Like, we all know that. But the one hit from Xavier Woods, was it this week or the week before? I think it was this past week, right? Where he just made a clean shot on the guy.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 2 weeks ago.
It was last week.
No, it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
okay.
They call it targeting.
It was 2 weeks ago. Targeting, like, come on, man. That's a clean shot. But I agree. Like, football right now, it's not a clean product. It's a lot of bad football, to be honest with you. And we're seeing it firsthand, more than anybody.
I'm gonna go through some of these comments, and I'm gonna get to one of the things I got frustrated with. I made a mistake of going at Panthers Twitter. I didn't mean to do it, but it kind of developed that way. So and it's something
on you, bro.
I've asked 5 separate people yesterday the same question. They all answered the exact same way. So we'll get to that in just a second, but got a lot of people in the comments today. Appreciate y'all checking us out. Mark Burks talking back and forth with Willie Smith. Willie still wants that separate call-in for the fans. I don't know how to like I don't know how to chaperone that. Like, there's no way for me to do it while we're live. I'll figure something out, Willie.
Maybe we can do it Twitter Spaces or something.
Yeah, maybe like something live, like after a game or something like that. Jeff Swan says, I'm such a diehard fan from the beginning, but this is the worst I've seen it. I'm a retired Army vet, and something has to change. This is getting very frustrating. Willie, Superman, 10 games and nothing offensive wise has changed. Offensive minded head coach is BS. Stu, you think you still fit some pads though? We could use an actual running back on this team.
I tried to tell him.
It's just a bunch of
man. There's some actual running backs on the team. Don't be throwing darts at the running backs.
I don't have a problem with running backs. I have a problem with the scheme they're running for the running backs, but I don't have a problem with the running backs at all. I think they've been a bright spot, like you said, Stu. One of the things. Okay, I'm just going ahead and set it off.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad.
Let's just start before the game even began. Why the hell are Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones on the field? And Jerry Jones is announcing that he's putting Jimmy Johnson in the Ring of Honor for the Cowboys at an away game in Carolina. Like, why is this? What does this happen? What is happening? Yeah. Like, what is that about?
I really want to know how that happened, like, or how it was allowed to be happen. Like, did David Tepper give him permission, or did he just do it? Or is this like a PR thing that they agreed to? Like, I mean, how does that happen?
At the very beginning of the game, before the game started, like in the pregame or whatever, Jerry Jones is in the building, and they announced finally that they're going to put Jimmy Johnson in the Cowboys Ring of Honor, which is something that should have been done 25 years ago. But, Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson had the thing or whatever, and it just hadn't been done. For whatever reason this week, Jerry Jones woke up and was like, you know what? I'm going to put Jimmy Johnson in the Ring of Honor. And they decided to announce it not at the next Dallas home game, but they went out on the field in Carolina and announced it there. And the cameras all picked it up, and they're out there and they're holding hands and everything else. And I'm just like, what does this have to do with us? Like, why is this happening here? Like, it was weird for it to happen in an away game. It'd be like retiring a jersey, like retiring a Carolina basketball jersey,
or it'd be like
the NC State game on the road or something. Like, what are you doing?
Could you even imagine like the level of disrespect, not only to the Panthers, but almost kind of like for Jimmy Johnson too? Like, you're not even getting that honor at home. That'd be like if David Tepper called up Stu and said, "Hey, Stu, we're going to put you in the Ring of Honor." like that's cool. But if he did it while you were in New Orleans or the team was in New Orleans, like
Buffalo do it.
Or Greg Olson would be a perfect one because he's on the games, right?
Yeah.
If he's calling a Panthers Saints game in New Orleans and they do this thing in New Orleans, like that's
on the
just,
field.
Oh,
on the
man.
field. They were on the field, like waving and like it was a big deal. And the cameras are picking it up. They're like, "Oh, it's so great. Jimmy Johnson's going in."
Yeah, that don't
"This
make
is
too much sense to me.
No, so that was the beginning of the tomfoolery on Sunday. And then you get this game where it's like, I haven't said anything about it out loud. I've noticed it really since week 1. And I thought, well, maybe it's just him learning the offense or whatever. And this past game, I was really like, okay, I got to say something about that. I haven't even said anything about it to either one of you. Bryce Young, I had a tweet Sunday during the game, and I'm going to pull it up here, where basically I'm saying, I might need to make it a little bigger. So this is middle, it's like 3:36 in the afternoon, and I'm sitting there watching the game, and I keep thinking about it, and I'm like, is it me or does Bryce Young literally never climb the pocket? He takes the shotgun snap and just stands on his toes. He doesn't drop deep. He doesn't climb the pocket into his throws. It's been nagging me for weeks, but I really see it today. Am I tripping? Panthers Twitter lost their mind. Like, they literally came to me as if everyone was basically like, well, how's he supposed to step up, dumbass? There's somebody in front of him every time he tries to do it. And I'm like, I'm not talking about the times where there's pressure clearly in his way and there's 3 dudes. I'm talking about the times where it's like he does have a little bit of a pocket. He gets the snap, and he just kind of he does this kind of thing.
It's
he
a
just
bad
kind of
habit.
Yeah, it's a bad habit, and nobody's correcting it.
It's not his fault. It's not necessarily his fault. It's a fact. It's a product of the pressure, right? Because when you're so used to it, you don't even think twice about the wing. You're so used to having to flush out of the pocket.
See, I thought maybe it was something he was doing in Alabama or something like that. And the more people kept coming at me from Panthers Twitter, like, well, there's no place to go. It's like climbing a fallen tree and all this other stuff. I mean, I've got all kinds of people. As you can see, that tweet got viewed 35,000 times, like from Sunday to today. So people were really on this thing. And I'm like, okay,
like, Desmond, you dumb.
Yeah, they're like, what are you doing? It's like you don't even watch the games. I'm like, y'all. Then look right below it. Y'all know damn well I'm forced to watch every damn second of these games to even do Bleav Panthers Weekly. Like, so I mean, I have to watch these games. It's not like I'm not watching them.
You got a point. I mean, because I look at guys like Lamar Jackson, right? Lamar Jackson in the pocket does everything in the pocket that you would ask a guy that gets sacked. Like, hey, why didn't you just step to the right? Why didn't you just see that guy coming out the gate and just run away from him? Or like Lamar Jackson's pocket awareness is just elite because he's always looking down the field too.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's an elite guy. That's something that maybe, you know, if you're a coach and you're Bryce Young, you add that to the tool shed. You know what I'm saying? Especially given that right now your offensive line is struggling. Like, anticipate sometimes on certain looks that guys are going to be in your face, and you need to deliver your own time almost. But I also can't. So we can't sit up here and say that that's easy to do,
right?
Because these guys, you got 6'5", 300, 290 guys in your face about to tear your head off. I'm pretty sure there's thousands of things going on through his mind.
Yeah.
And you know, and it's hard to prioritize, you know, what sticks and what you choose to do in those moments.
And I'm not saying Bryce Young sucks or anything like that. In fact, we've been some of the biggest cheerleaders for Bryce Young since we knew we were going after him. So I'm not saying that in the tweet. What I'm basically saying is that it was a difference watching Dak Prescott take 7-step drops and then climb the ladder in the pocket up and step into his throws. Bryce doesn't step into his throws. If he's climbing the pocket, someone is chasing him. Like, literally someone's behind him and he's having to move out and go. Think about any regular Bryce Young play. It's going to be shotgun pistol formation 85% of the time. I was shocked he was under center on Sunday. That's something I don't know if we've really seen at all. And something they need to do, because if you can do that, you can run some play action, and you can't really run play action right from where he's at in that pocket. He gets the snap, and for those talking about him, well, he didn't got no room to climb the pocket up front. If the Panthers know that, and all of us know that too at home watching, I'm pretty sure Bryce knows that at this point. when he gets this shotgun snap, why isn't he taking a couple steps back? You know what I mean? Just like a simple 2-step drop just to give yourself some more space because you know it's coming. He's not doing that. He takes it and he kind of stands on his toes. Like he gets it and he takes it leisurely. I mean, that's the frustrating part for me. It's like this, there's no
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad. I'm gonna tell you why we mad.
There's no urgency in what he does. And like some people treat it as, oh, he's just Mr. Cool. Others look at it like he doesn't know what he's looking at. And I don't know which one it is, but like when he gets the snap, he leisurely takes a step back. You see him look around, I assume for Adam Thielen, and then he throws it to Adam Thielen. Like that's literally what I'm watching the past couple of weeks. Like when he tries another wide receiver, they drop it. So he maybe he's fallen out of like Mingo and Chark and some of these other guys that we thought were gonna be able to do some stuff. They can't hold on to the ball. Like I understand why he's going to Adam Thielen 12, 14 times a game because he's catching the football. Yeah, he's getting open.
I'm gonna answer your question, Desmond.
All right.
It's based off of lack of trust. All the things you were just explaining, all the things you're upset about.
Lack of trust.
It's a lack of trust in the offensive line,
okay,
and the people that he's throwing to.
Okay. But I mean, we got 9 games to go, or 8 games to go. Like, yeah, okay, so this brings me to because
I got why I'm mad. I got why I'm mad, by the way.
Hit me, brother.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son. I'm gonna tell you why we mad.
By the way, I was gonna have a surprise. I was gonna clip you doing that from last week so we could have it as an extra one. I'm gonna have it next week. So I just didn't have enough time this week to get to it. But like
it's not as crisp, but it's okay. Jonathan Mingo, man, what the hell are you doing? I mean, I feel like we're saying, what the hell are you doing to about half this team? But dude, like he stopped running on his route on the pick six. I don't know what he's doing. Like, here's just my take. I've never played receiver. And I mean, Tues obviously had some effect in the passing game as a running back. But to me, what I was told from guys that played receiver is when you see somebody in your peripheral vision as a DB or a linebacker, and I know there's playing linebacker, some receivers, when they see that guy coming and it's an out route like that, you're going to condense that route and come down on it hard to take that angle away and come back to the football. He drifted off and just kept running the route. You have to understand.
That was an unfriendly route.
Is that a rookie?
That's what that was. Yeah, you want to run friendly routes so that way it's an easier throw for the quarterback.
You can cut that thing off. You don't have to run the complete depth of it or run it as it's designed. If you can see this guy's cutting in front of you, he's going to undercut it. You've got to make it to where you're beating him to the spot and come back to the ball. And then after the ball's picked off, he gives up on the play.
Yeah,
like, he kept drifting. He kept drifting away
off the sideline.
he could have drifted towards the guy and tapped him while he was on the ground.
It's
it's an effort thing, right? And it's an awareness thing. Like I remember when quarterbacks are going to throw picks, bro. I remember the first time Jake DeLone, he threw a pick. Maybe we were playing the Cardinals or something like that. I can't remember, but I remember in that moment, I was like, oh, I can get a tackle right now. So like in my mind, I was like, oh, I can play defense now.
You like to hit, yeah. So that was
so I'm like, where'd he go? Like, let me go chase him down. Let me see if I can get the ball back. But like that's the mentality you gotta have. Like, you play offense, you're a receiver, but you playing football, man. You gotta have that mentality that we out here playing football. So whatever I gotta do, I'm gonna go do
it. And the thing is, when that happens, the play isn't over just because it's picked off, right? You can go and lay the wood on this kid, and maybe he loses the ball because he's not used to
last night. Did you guys see AJ Brown last night? He ran a bad route. And I think it was because he beat the guy so bad off the snap. He put his hand up to Jalen, saying, "I'm going deep," but Jalen didn't see his hand up, and so he threw it short. I think he was like a little curl route or something like that, or in. And the DB came in and undercut the route and intercepted it. AJ Brown went up on the DB and stripped the ball away from the DB.
That's what I'm talking about.
Now, AJ Brown accidentally touched him while he was on the ground, so he was down. But but you can tell that he wasn't trying to touch the DB after he caught the ball, intercepted the ball, because he was like, get up so I could take the ball back. I was like, man, this is a great play. Like if he didn't touch the DB while he was down, that would have been a top play.
How ironic is that? How ironic is that the AJ Brown is an Ole Miss guy and does that? 2 years ago, DK Metcalf, Ole Miss guy, runs the
same
down
mentality.
freaking Buda
Runs
Baker.
down a guy. It's a mentality,
And
bro.
Jonathan Mingo is an Ole Miss guy. You would think, okay, and they kept comparing, not necessarily comparing him, but the same size, the same build, kind of in a way as those two guys, and that's what happens. I mean, come on,
man.
Play is not over.
You got to find the dog within yourself that wants the ball.
See, Mark Burns says Bryce footwork seems off too. He's off his back foot because he's flat-footed in the pocket. I appreciate the insight for how things really work on the field for us couch coaches. That's another thing too. He throws it off his back foot, and I think maybe some of us are used to that because Cam did that a lot too. The difference is Cam was like 6'6", 260 and could throw it 70 yards flat foot. Like there's a difference. Like Bryce doesn't have that kind of arm, so when he throws it, there's not a lot of zip on those throws when he's now. Granted, again, I'm not saying he's not being pressured. Like I'm not dumb. Like I see guys in his lap every third play. Like that's not what I'm talking about. That's a whole other issue. It's the offensive line. I'm talking about the few and far times in between when he does get it 2 or 3 seconds and he gets the ball out clean. He's not climbing the pocket and putting his body weight into the throws, and it makes the throws float. Like they float kind of either behind the receiver.
They don't have that tight spiral.
Yeah, they're short, or or most of these pick sixes that he's thrown, if you look back at them, they're behind the receiver. Like he's throwing behind the guy. Like, and it's because of whatever was going on in the pocket. So this brings me to my first question of the day for both of you, because we're at that point now where we can seriously talk about it. Should the Panthers bench Bryce Young and bring in Andy Dalton to save Bryce Young from this? Because this is only going to get worse as the season goes on, right? Like, I mean, what are we playing for at this point? He's your #1 draft pick. You gave up so much stuff to get this kid in here. Do you leave him in there for 9 more games and potentially have a Zach Wilson situation going on where he's so fractured?
He ain't mentally. Listen to me. Don't you put Bryce Young and Zach Wilson in the same
conversation. Where they were drafted. I mean, it's a different situation in New York, and that's a whole.
Listen, the Jets are actually way worse than the Panthers. So
in what?
Look it up. I think their points. They gotta have.
I think they are points wise. Yeah, I think they only score like 17.
Wise.
Yeah,
they can't score either. So, but listen, Bryce Young and that boy over there ain't the same category.
But should we bench him though? Like, and save him from?
We should. I think we should not bench him because I think there's still an opportunity for him to develop. Right. So like you can use this, we're going to Tennessee. It's an away game. They won 3 games. It's an opportunity for him to establish some confidence. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't want to just end this train of like, he's got how many games they got left?
7? 8. What are we? 9?
8.
Yeah, 8.
8, yeah.
8 more.
8. So there's still 8 games left, right? I would say the next 4 games, after the next 4 games, let's have a meeting and let's talk. You know what I'm saying? Like, but these next 4 games, like the holidays, the extended, like it's his first season. You want him to feel exhausted. You want him to go through that rookie year of feeling how long an NFL season is and deal with the woes right now. I mean, this is a character building season for the guys that are going to be here next year and the years to come. And these years are absolutely needed for a team to be successful. You got to figure out what the nucleus is going to be like in years to come. You look at everybody talks about the teams that the Panthers have been successful in. Those teams didn't come from, like they've been good their whole entire career. No, it came from a nucleus of the 2-14 season. Mm-hmm. The Super Bowl run that you lost to the Patriots and the year they drafted Julius Peppers. Like there's been like an establishment of, teams that have created an identity for what the Panthers once were. And so right now they have to go through that same. Panther fans, buckle up and get in that car that has no suspension on a dirt road where there's a bunch of potholes in it.
A geo tracker.
And just deal with it. It's a bumpy ride right now.
You know why you don't bench Bryce? Because you've got to get repetitions out of him. And if we go all the way back to that season opener in Atlanta, right? Jesse Bates picks him off twice. And you know why? Because Bryce is not expecting a safety to make him, no pun intended, bait him into that type of a throw a second time. He learned from that. You don't get those when you're sitting. Yes, you can see it, but until you're actually on the field and going through it and you see these things that the defense is presenting you, you don't really know how to answer it. This is what you call growing pains, right?
Yeah.
This is the time where if you want to go through growing pains, you might as well do it when you're 1-9 and not where you're fighting for the playoffs. So I think you got to keep him out there. And like Stu said, if you get to the last 3, 4 games of the season and you still have one win and Bryce is just taking a beating and you can see it starting to wear on him, absolutely. At that point, make the switch, throw Andy out there for the last couple of games, and you go from there. But right now, I think there's too much out there for Bryce to either improve on or correct or just gain that experience. So that way, when he's there next year, because he's your starting quarterback of the future, he's going to be there next year starting week 1. He's got to understand what things are going to be thrown at him, and he's got to see these things up close and in person right now.
So the 2 issues with what both of you guys just said, I don't necessarily disagree with it at all. It's just a question that I felt we needed to ask at the halfway point of the season. I'm worried because on one hand, we all kind of think that I don't know if any of us think Frank Wright's going to be here next year at this point. Like, even if they wait to the end of the season and then let him go and whatever happens with the staff at that point. So you're going to have a brand new voice or voices in Bryce Young's head next year. So whatever he's learning this year, he's going to have to unlearn next year and do this all over again for the most part.
In some points, but I think too, you got to think if Reich is truly on the hot seat, he can't start Andy Dalton. David Tepper is not going to let him do that. I wouldn't think, right? I mean, if he's sitting here saying like you're I don't know what those meetings are like. I don't know if he brings up the job security to Frank or not, but I'm pretty sure Frank knows how to read a room.
Have you seen Frank Wright? Right. I'm pretty sure he's told him a couple of times at this point. Like each week, it's probably a little louder.
And here's what I'm getting at with that. You drafted this kid number 1. You drafted this kid number 1. He wants to see him work with that kid that they drafted number 1 and see progress. He doesn't care what Andy Dalton looks like in this offense with Frank Reich. He wants to see what Bryce Young looks like and whether there's progression or not. That's the only way David Tepper can make a call on Frank Reich. He can't make it based off what Andy Dalton does.
To be honest, like you're not going to really figure out who Bryce Young is this year.
Maybe not even till 2025.
Yeah, because this offense ain't it. This is not it.
Like, let's just get that out the window. Right now, we're just talking about Bryce Young getting these reps.
Yeah.
What is like? Hey, look, we need you to go out there and fight for your life and learn how to do it.
Good luck, young fella. Get on out there. Mark says no, leave him in, let him utilize RPO more, which he ran at Alabama. Like, I don't understand why they're not doing this. They ran RPO, did a lot of bubble screens and things like that. We don't do any of that stuff really. He can develop a lot of D reading experience that way and get him out of a dangerous pocket. I keep seeing this image of Micah Parsons like on his backside, like coming at, like you can see it on the TV, like him coming, and I'm screaming at the TV, no, Bryce, get rid of the ball, get rid of the ball. Like I have enough time to say it 3 times before he actually gets there.
Y'all remember seeing the Jurassic Park, the first one?
Yeah.
Remember when that raptor was in the kitchen? When that raptor was in the kitchen, you just in there watching it like, oh, don't make a sound. Don't do it there. Don't go around the corner. Why you do that?
It's like, because I feel like Bryce should know, especially in that Dallas game after the first Micah Parsons sack, because he ended up getting 7 overall. Micah Parsons had 2.5 of those. After the first one, I'm looking for Micah Parsons every play. Like, I shouldn't even took the first snap. I'm looking for Micah pregame. Like, I want to know where he's at when he's getting water.
You know what makes this worse? You know what makes this worse? I don't know if you remember back. I think this is when I first started on here with you. That was that year's draft where Micah Parsons. And
20. Yeah, 20.
this is before like he kind of got into this elite player that he is, and there were some questions about him coming out of college for some reason, but I was like, this is the guy that you want if you're Carolina, whatever they were, number 7 or number 8, because you could pair him with Shaq Thompson. 21.
Okay, so
you could pair him with Shaq Thompson, and he could be kind of like that replacement for Luke Kuechly. Could you imagine Micah Parsons on this defense, man?
Brian Burns and Derek Brown.
And then we get closer to the draft, and there's all this chatter about that they're probably looking at a cornerback, and me and you were both thinking it's Patrick Surtain, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
And then they take J.C. Horn, and they don't even get what I mean. And there's the jury's still out on J.C., but I don't think it's a far-fetched thing to say that Patrick Surtain is definitely the number 1 corner from that class. Like he is played
he's
way.
Yeah, he
plays.
He's
playing at a high level. So they had 2 guys there that. I mean, I'm not saying that we're always right. We've said a lot of things wrong, but Patrick Surtain and Micah Parsons, we were pretty much pounding the table for. I don't know, but Panthers weren't the only one that passed up on Micah.
That brings up actually a question I wrote down. I thought would be pretty cool for today because David Tepper's on this team this is his 6th season owning this team, and it's going to be his 6th losing season as owner of the team. He took over in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Think of all the choices that David Tepper has made over the past 6 years with this franchise, with the roster, with coaches, with general managers and everything else. If you could do a Tepper do-over and redo one thing that he's done since he's been the owner of the franchise, what would you do? I probably should have prepped y'all.
I would say
you got to kind of think about it now, because whatever you pick is going to have ripple effect across everything after. So you can go, it's almost like a Marvel movie. Like you can go back all the way to the beginning of the timeline and change something. It's going to affect everything else.
You know what? I would say probably just give Ron 1 more year. Yeah. Just give Ron 1 more year. And if it doesn't work, then you can make the change. But I think it was too much of he wanted to get his own guy. And I understand that. Owners want to do that. GMs want to do that. But I think he ripped the Band-Aid off just a little too soon. But I don't know that changes anything. I mean, they still have issues at quarterback. So,
I mean, he got fired. Rivera went through like 4 quarterbacks that year, like because Cam got hurt.
Kyle Allen, Heineke.
It was rough. And like that was on my list because I felt like Ron deserved that. He deserved the opportunity to rebuild the roster, and he never got a chance to do that because he was still living off the remnants of you guys.
Yeah, I think the Ron Rivera fire could be one of the things, right? And obviously, we would never know. And to Schuyler's point, you need a quarterback. What happened? Cam got hurt, and it was never the same.
Yeah,
nothing was never the same, and that is what really kind of started the ripple effect, in my opinion. And then you get leaders like Luke Kuechly retiring, and then you get Greg Olsen getting, them letting Greg Olsen leave.
Thomas Davis,
the Seattle Seahawks. Thomas Davis goes to the Commanders, I think it was the first time. Yeah. Or no, he went to the or was it the Chargers? No, it was the Chargers first.
And then he
went to the Chargers first, and then went to Commander. So I mean, you talk about that nucleus, right? I was talking about earlier, where you part of that nucleus, something happens that's tragic that causes this ripple effect of like, okay, a new era. And do you just rip the Band-Aid off, or do you utilize what's in the room? You know what I'm saying? And I feel like sometimes, it doesn't necessarily need to be, always black and white. Gray exists for a reason. So,
yeah.
And I think too with when you go back to like all the decisions that were made, like I don't know that there's really one thing in particular that would really change anything. Because again, it comes down to quarterbacks, and Carolina that was unexpected with Cam, right? Like you can't prepare for that type of injury to happen. When you lose a star quarterback like that, it's typically going to send you into a tailspin. Indianapolis, like they kind of got lucky throughout the years. They had Peyton Manning for years he got hurt, and they kind of knew all along, look, we're going to take a quarterback number one. They got Andrew Luck, but they still had a decision on whether they could keep Peyton Manning or not. So they fell in a great situation. Green Bay, they had Brett Favre for years, had Aaron Rodgers sitting behind him. Like, he was ready to take the torch.
It's like 25 years.
Yeah, Will Greer, as much as I love the guy and I know his family and great people and covered him, and, he wasn't going to be that guy, even though they drafted him to be. He wasn't going to be that guy behind Cam. And
Right.
You could say the same about Kyle Allen or whoever else, but they didn't have that guy waiting in the wings.
I think mine, and I've floated around the past couple of weeks, the whole Matt Rule era, all that stuff, fine. You're new owner, you want your guy in there, I get all that. I keep coming back to the McCaffrey trade. That's the one thing. Because if you ripple from that point on, I think I got to a point where it's like, you don't trade top 10 picks. Like, you don't trade those. Like, the dudes that you drafted in the top 10 overall of the draft, and they've proven their worth, you don't trade them in their prime. And that's what we did. We traded Christian McCaffrey in his prime.
I don't have a problem with the trade, because when we kind of talked about, like, if you're going to trade him, now's the time to do it, because he was actually healthy for the first time in forever.
But we shouldn't have traded him. That's my whole thing.
What you got in return is the issue. You didn't get much in return.
Nothing.
If you get a first-round pick or something equivalent to the outfitter said that you essentially equates to a first-round pick, I don't know about all that, but I think you needed to get more out of that trade. I don't mind the trade personally.
And that what reminded me of last night, they were talking about, or no, I saw it last night. I think it was on Twitter. I came across like a reel or something where somebody was talking about the Deshaun Watson trade to Cleveland. People were sitting there talking about how Houston's so much better than Carolina right now. I think all of them have forgotten the loot they got back from Cleveland for trading Deshaun Watson up there. They got 3 first-round picks and a bunch of others too. They still have a first and like a fourth out that trade from Cleveland. They still have this year.
And Cleveland's paying $300-some million for Deshaun to sit on the sideline.
Fully guaranteed, and he can't even play the rest of the year. And they got Tank Dell out of one of those draft picks. They got a couple of others that they got from those picks, and that's how they kind of rebuilt pretty quick. We didn't have anything like that. We could have with McCaffrey, but the way the trade went down, I just look at it like, okay, say they didn't trade McCaffrey, because think of when it happened too. It was the week after Rule got fired. Steve Wilkes had become the interim head coach. Why are you trading away your best player then? Like, why now? Like, when he's finally on the field and you're trying to figure out what you want to do, you're going to run the ball. So why are you trading away a top 3 running back in the league that you just extended? We just talked about this with DJ Moore. If you still have McCaffrey, maybe you don't want to put all your stuff in one barrel and trade up to number 1 to get Bryce Young. Or even if you do, you got more stuff to play with to do it. You're still going to have McCaffrey here. I would imagine McCaffrey being here with Bryce Young would be easier on Bryce Young. He'd have that check down that he didn't seem to have a check down when he's drifting back. Like, we got so used to seeing McCaffrey as the check down for all these other quarterbacks. Who's the check down for Bryce Young? It seems like he didn't even have one drawn in. He's not looking at whoever the check down's supposed to be. He's down here.
The turf.
But if you still have McCaffrey in this what if situation, then you probably don't trade DJ Moore because you're not moving up. You still sign somebody like an Andy Dalton, like you had been the past 3 or 4 years, like a Teddy Bridgewater or Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold. Andy Dalton, out of all those, would have more experience and could just come in and go. And he's coming in with an offense with Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore and a pretty decent offensive line. And a defense has played well the past 3 or 4 years. Like, doesn't that seem like something that would interest you more?
Or you take a gap year and let PJ start a whole year.
Yeah, or re-sign Sam for a year.
Yeah, PJ Walker beat the 49ers.
Yeah. All these dudes that left here are doing. Baker Mayfield's playing well in Tampa. Sam
peanut butter jelly, man. I tried to tell y'all last year, peanut butter jelly, man.
Sam ain't even playing, but he's probably in the best position as a backup to Brock Purdy in San Francisco. Yeah. So we could have signed Sam for another year. And
I got a question.
Go for it.
And you can record this and post it on Instagram, because I want everybody on social media to answer this question.
Oh, let me mark the time.
Oh boy.
What is one thing? Because right now the fans, like, this is a shout out to the fans. Like, we see you, we hurt with you, and this just flat out sucks. But
no sugar.
The question here is just, what one thing would make everything better? What's the one thing that would make everything better right now? I'm not talking about going back into the past. And I'm not even necessarily talking about going, into the future. Right now, what is the one thing that would make your experience? And we know winning will cure all. But what thing would you do?
That turkey on Thursday.
That's a good answer.
I'd let Frank Wright.
How are you dealing with this? I want to know what y'all doing. What's going to make this feel better? Because the reality is that we in it. We are in it. 2 feet in the mud.
I'm more worried about losing our coordinators at this point. Not necessarily Thomas Brown.
You get that comp pick, though. You get a comp pick.
If you lose one?
Minority.
Yeah, probably. Now, I want to keep Jero. I want to keep him. I want him to be the interim head coach. Like the past couple of weeks, especially, I've been listening to his press conferences. He sounds like what I want a head coach to sound like. It's the same thing that happened with Steve Wilks last year, because Wilks sounded like a head coach, right? Like we bought in. Yeah, I was like, I want to go play for this dude. And Ebro's kind of the same way. Now, Thomas Brown, he has a mean press conference too. Like I feel him when he's up there. He feels like he's got his stuff together. Frank Wright feels like he's not in that word salad place that Matt Rule was at.
Calculated.
He's very calculated with what he says, but sometimes he says too much. And it's like he's trying to explain everything, and we don't need to know everything, Frank. Like, like we don't need to know how the sauce is made. Just bring us some sauce that's good. Don't bring us this sauce that's whatever.
I appreciate his transparency.
I do appreciate his transparency, because he could be like Matt Rule, where he's kind of throwing players under the bus and not really explaining anything. I need to look at the tape. End of the day, yada, yada. He could be all that, but he's been pretty whatever questions, because Vashti Hurt and Sheena Quick and some of these others in there, Joe Person, they've been giving him some like tough questions to ask right after a game. Coach, do you think you're going to be fired on Tuesday? How are you supposed to answer that? It's like, well, I don't know.
Willie Smith said a competitive football team is what he would like to see, and that would save the fan base.
Half the team.
So the question earlier was, what will save the fan base? How about that? I'll put it this way. What will save the fan base right now?
I still said
a competitive football team.
I still don't think that.
What is a competitive football team?
Couple wins here.
Listen, I'm just saying the turkey thing could be a real thing. You could eat so much turkey that you're tired, you can sleep through the game on Sunday. You don't even know.
3 days later.
You have leftovers, huh? Get you some Hawaiian rolls, some cheese.
Mark Burns, one thing, Tepper isn't allowed in the building. One thing I will say, because I keep seeing people mention that Tepper should sell the team, like it's a public decision or something like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
David Tepper bought this team for what, $2.5 billion or something 5 years ago. They're now worth close to $5 billion. He ain't selling this team. Like, why would he sell this team? Yeah, like he's doubled the value of the team in 6 years without a winning season. Like, he has no reason to sell the team. So please get off that. He ain't gonna sell the team because some kid in Concord feels like he should sell the team because he's ruining the franchise. Like, I keep seeing this sentiment. He should sell the team. Like Tepper cares. He don't care that we're mad about this stuff. Like, he does.
I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
But not enough to miss out on another $4 billion if he just holds the team for another 4 years. Like, I mean, the value is not going to go down.
You want to get on this Frank Reich stuff?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm waiting. Let's
go. Here's what I was telling the guys before the show, and obviously by now you probably understand that nothing's happening this week. But the reason why, well, I would say the reason, but I would assume one of the reasons why nothing's happening this week is because yesterday you had the Bradley Bozeman turkey thing at Topgolf. Tonight you have the Christmas lighting of the tree, and you also have Thanksgiving. The practice schedule is altered this week. So they're not practicing Thursday. They're not practicing today. If you make a coaching change this week, you're changing everything. That means responsibilities are shifted. You're going to have to bring guys in on Thanksgiving to make it work in time. There's just no way logistically that would make any sense to make that move this week.
That makes sense.
I also think you kind of know, like you kind of knew, like last year, we talked about that deja vu feeling, right, with the Niners and the Cowboys thing. But you kind of already knew at that point Rule was not the guy. And I'm not saying that Frank could end up being the right guy, but when you hire a guy and he's only in his first season, if you're David Tepper, you want to make damn sure that he isn't the guy, right? Because, I mean, you just hired this guy. You don't want to fire him and be paying 3 head coaches.
Oh,
You're still paying Rule.
Yep.
You're paying Frank, and you're paying the new coach. Either way, he got his money, right? You don't want to have to pay 2 buyouts and then pay a new coaching staff all over again. So that's I don't think we may see this go all the way to the end of the season. I wouldn't be surprised.
And that goes back to what I was saying before. I'm afraid coordinators are going to leave, like, because they just saw what happened to Thomas Brown, right? We talked about this last week. He got 3 games to prove that he could do something, and then Frank had to snatch it back. Granted, Frank is basically trying to land an airplane with no landing gear at this point. Like he took the stick back. It's like, if we're gonna land this thing, it's gonna be me. And everyone behind
there's only like this much runway left.
Yeah, everyone behind's like, no, Frank, the landing gear don't work. And Frank's like, I don't care. I've already been told I got to land this plane, so I'm landing this plane. So he's gonna land this plane. Now I don't know what's gonna look like when he lands it, but I feel like Thomas Brown is not going to be here next year. He did an excellent job in that press conference last week, basically having to answer questions as to what happened. And he sounded like he didn't really know quite himself what happened, but he answered it in an adult manner, like where it's not going to, I don't think it's going to, I hope it doesn't affect him professionally going forward with getting jobs or whatever. But yeah, I can't imagine him staying here. Like, why would he stay here if it could just be yanked from you on a whim? And it seems like a lot of the choices being made are being made from Panthers Twitter. I swear, I think David Tepper sits in the basement of his $1 million house and just goes through Panther Twitter and makes his decisions off of this. Because every time they make a big decision, a firing, a trade,
that man ain't on Twitter.
I don't know. It's so eerie. Like, it always happens.
That man out there giving financial advice to the world, bro. He got more. That's one of the things too. People got to realize. Like, yeah, he owns a football team, but this man is a billionaire for a reason. He's got all types of things that he's got to deal with.
Yeah, it's not like he ain't busy. He got other stuff he needs to tend to.
You know what it does feel like, though, is like I'm not suggesting that this is happening, but it kind of makes some bit of sense. Like, you start out 0-6, maybe there is frustration from ownership and the front office, and maybe that pressure from those 2 groups coming down on Reich made that switch to Thomas happen. And then you see the Thomas thing not pan out, and then there's that pressure again where, okay, maybe let's go back and try and refix that.
Yes.
I could see that. I don't know if that was 100% a Frank Reich call to hand over the play calls when it did. I don't know. We may never know. I'm just saying it makes sense that could have been a pressured decision, and then the pressured decision to take it back.
The idea to switch the defense to a 3-4. Like, I've heard that people go, that was a David Tepper thing. He wanted to run 3-4. Why? Because the Pittsburgh Steelers have run 3-4 for the past 60 years or whatever, and that's where he came from, and that's what he wanted to model the franchise around. Even though technically at the time, and really still today, the roster didn't fit a 3-4. Like, they kind of had to shoehorn in some players in some spots, and still there's still, glaring.
Well, that's the big problem is even if you make a coaching change, it's not going to change the results because it's still largely the same coaching staff.
Same players. Yeah.
And it's still the same players that don't fit in the scheme that you're running, offensively or defensively. We talked about this week after week. You're running a zone scheme running for an offensive line that is downhill, plays power and trap. This is not a team that likes to get it outside.
I completely forgot about that, and I'm glad you reminded me.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
Frank did it again at the press conference on Monday. He did it again. Somebody asked him a question about the run game, and he was talking about how, they had Bryce under center a couple times, that long 17-play drive that they had, and they scored a touchdown on it. Even that, they made that look hard, like just getting it down the field. And he said something again about the line and knowing, I think it was Vashti that asked the question.
They're not a physical team that wants to, or was it him talking about them running the ball well?
Yeah, something about that. Yeah. It was the same vein of what he said the week before, that they're not a smash mouth team, but he basically admitted in the comment that he understands that the offensive line strength. That's what it was. She was asking him about last year, and when he came in, why they kept the offensive line together, and what were they planning? What was the plan? Did you know they weren't a good pass blocking line or whatever? And he kind of was like, no, we kept them because that was the strength of the team last year. They were a power running team, and we felt like we could benefit from that. And I'm listening to the thing with my arms crossed, like, Frank, like, why would you come in and change what they do well? You're running like a spread offense with like a power run line, and then you're not even trying really to run power. And when you do try to do it on Sunday, it actually worked and you scored a touchdown. And now you're in the press conference like, yeah, but that's not what we want to do. We don't want to do that. Well, what do you want to do, Frank? Like, what do you want to do? Because there's no identity with the offense. I cannot figure out what they're trying to do. And we're in week 12 of the season.
And what's the reason why the tight ends are not involved in a passing game?
No,
if you look everywhere Frank Reich has been,
bro.
The tight ends are vital. I mean, they are heavily targeted in Frank Reich's system. I don't understand why Hayden
I watched the Chicago Bears last week when they played us. Was it last week?
Technically, yeah. Almost 2 Thursdays ago.
Yeah, it was 2 Thursdays. Yeah.
But like,
they're all bleeping together.
How do you say they're Komet? Is that how you say?
Oh, quarterback.
Cole Komet.
Tight end.
Oh no, tight end.
Man, listen. That boy, like, to me, that was a difference maker in that game. Like, he was picking up pivotal, like, third downs, second downs. You have a tight end in a running game, it takes a lot off of the quarterback. It takes a lot off of those receivers, and it takes a lot off the offensive line if you utilize them. And yes, I'm questioning, like what, Trimble scored the touchdown, right?
Yeah.
So like, let's take that moment and create momentum. Like, let's feed this guy, right? Let's get him some reps, some meaningful reps where he's actually being, the choice on plays you're calling. Because I'm like, when Greg was Cam's guy, that's when we were at our best.
Yes. Yeah.
Whenever you look at every tight, like last night, the Kansas City Chiefs, I can't name many of their receivers right now, but I know who makes that offense go.
Mm-hmm.
Travis Kelce. Okay. And without Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes is just my homeboy, and that's not saying anything bad about his ability. He's one of the best quarterbacks to probably play this game. But Travis Kelce has elevated his experience at the quarterback position.
There's times where Kelsey's running and there's like no one around him. I'm like, how's this dude wide open? You know who he is. Like, why is he not running?
Because he's not running routes, bro. He just running.
Yeah, they're playing backyard football.
Like, this is the area you want me over here in this area, right?
Go to the Cadillac.
I'll get there.
Go to the Cadillac. But that makes too much sense. That why would they have not invested in a tight end? Well, I guess they did. They brought in Hayden Hurst, but they're not really using him. Tommy Trimble's kind of become that number one tight end, I guess. But that reminded me of something else too. That when I was making that tweet about Bryce not climbing the pocket, and people were talking about all the pressure. We see all this pressure from these teams now where they're not even like really blitzing. They're just getting there with their front four a lot of times. And
everyone's like, well, things off.
Yeah. They're doing stunts and stuff and just kind of confusing our offensive line. And people were like, well, most of it's coming up the middle. And I saw a lot of people hating on Brad Bozeman on Twitter the past couple of days to the point where his wife had to take a tweet down. Y'all need to calm down on some of that stuff. Like, these guys are out here trying to play. Like, they're not out here for giggles. Like, they're trying to do what they're being told to do. But my question with Bryce is, why don't they run more bootlegs like they would do with Cam? Like, they run them out to the left, run them out to the right. Joe Burrow does this where
he's clearly better on the move.
And he's on the move and no huddle. Like, and they started doing a little bit of that more Sunday too, where if you give him a lot of time, like, we got to huddle and you got to think and look at everything. If he has all his time to process, it's almost like he's processing too much and like he can't make a quick decision, because there's a lot of times where he's dropped back to pass. I'm like, that ball should already been out, Bryce. That ball should already been out, and he's just kind of. It's like a coverage sack.
I'll tell you. You took the words out of my mouth. Coverage sack. Meaning that all the receivers and all the targets are covered.
Yep.
So
and he's just watching
he holding on to the ball is basically because ain't nobody open.
Throw it out of bounds or something. Because Micah Parsons, remember like 20 minutes ago, Micah Parsons is behind you, like coming like this, and we can see it on TV. Like we know the sack is about. That's the worst feeling in the world when you know a sack's about to happen and you're at home watching it.
And Raptors in the kitchen.
You're just like, and you see him get hit, and like you're like, all right, Bryce, just get up, right. And he gets up.
They had the 3 consecutive sacks at the end of the game. That was rough. But I mean, again, I really don't think this is an indictment on those guys on the offensive line. I actually, and this is maybe a hot take, I don't know, but I actually think those guys on the offensive line, some of them, like a Taylor Moton, Austin Corbett, Bozeman, and even Ike Ekwonu, I think those guys are good players. Yeah. They're just not being put in a system that caters to what they do well. If they're playing in a system like they did last year, or they go somewhere else in free agency, or they get traded or whatever, it wouldn't surprise me to see them play well. Yeah. They're just not being asked to do what
they don't look comfortable. They just don't look comfortable.
That's what Panther players do. They're here, and then when they leave, they blow up and are great. And the Panther fan base is like, why do we trade them? Because y'all wanted to.
And the problem is, right, if this staff stays in place, or even if it doesn't, we're probably going to see some changes on that offensive line. Well, guess what? Bozeman's under contract. He just signed a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
Corbett is on a multi-year deal. I think he'd be entering his last year.
Yep.
Moton is still under contract.
Yeah, extended a year.
He's on a rookie deal.
Yeah.
So regardless, if you're making a change at the starting 5, you're going to have some dead money somewhere. Who's it going to be? Who are you getting rid of?
Why don't we just play to their strengths?
They just need to get. They just need to get that left guard position. Just needs a little help. That's all.
Does Brady Christensen? How much does that? Because I think he's the forgotten thing in all of this, because he hasn't really been a part of the struggles.
Yeah,
he was out in the first game, so we don't really have an answer on Brady.
Is Corbett calling the line plays? I noticed that when I was watching Sunday too. It looks like Corbett's the one that's calling the stuff out for the line.
He's just giving Bose the go ahead to snap.
Oh, okay. Because you can see him standing up. He's looking at Bryce or whatever, and then he sits down and points or whatever, does the thing. I don't know. Is he calling out the line now, or is it Bozeman? Or I don't know. It just seems like night and day, especially with Bozeman, because Bozeman, we were raving about Bozeman last year and how the line.
He's a downhill guy. He's not this zone scheme. Like, I don't even know how to really dumb it down, because it's literally this. It's as simple as this: square peg, round hole.
And how many weeks are you going to keep trying to put it in there? Because it clearly is not working. We can't score. If a team, we said this last week, if a team gets up by like double digits on us, it's almost like it's done right at that point, because we're not built to come back like the way this offense is. I feel really bad for the defense, because the defense is playing pretty well. I thought I saw going into that game, they were like 7th overall in yards allowed, which was shocking to me. I was like, how's that possible? And I started thinking, well, short fields and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I guess I could kind of see it, but they haven't really had their defense out there all year. The starters have been hurt. We haven't really had a full secondary healthy since the first quarter of week 1. And for them to be playing this well is a telltale sign that Evero probably will be a head coach. He's probably going to get interviews for head coach this year when it's over, even though the Panthers are going to be like 2 and whatever, just because of the strength of the defense and how they played. Now, what do you do going forward? That was the question we had earlier in the show. I don't know if you can do anything going forward other than just continue to
keep
pounding. I don't want to continue to do the same thing, because Tennessee is coming up here next, and they got a similar situation where their coach is like kind of on a hot seat now too.
They not similar, baby. I'm gonna tell you why they're not similar.
Why is this? Oh, do we get to see Will Levis this week? He's
that. They got that boy called Derrick Henry.
How's Derrick Henry doing this year? Because he was on the trading block.
He ain't doing what he usually do, but I can tell you he's looking at us like, all right.
Barbecue chicken. Barbecue chicken on Sunday for Derrick.
Especially after Dallas kind of ran on us a little bit.
I think we exposed Dallas' defense a little bit with us running on them. Like, I think the Eagles and the 49ers looking at it like, okay, when we see y'all in January.
Yeah, all right, told you about Cowboys. Cowboys a pretty good team, but they ain't all that.
I'm riding with Detroit. Detroit 8-2.
the optics, again, losing to the Dallas Cowboys is not like, I think everyone, even David Tepper, probably knew that this was going to happen, right? The optics, though, this is where it really gets dicey for Frank and company, because if you lose,
you can't lose
to Tennessee. Will Levis led Tennessee. You lose to Will Levis. You lose to Tyson Bagent. Now the optics are starting to look really bad, and it looks like that Houston game was just an anomaly.
Stroud, looking back on it, I'm like, how in the world did we beat Houston? Like, it was the defense. Our defense basically played lights out that day, and despite the offense not really being able to score,
and Julius Peppers was on the field for halftime. That's why.
That's right.
And Mr. Muhammad.
They was showing out for them. So you had to win that game. Like, you had to win that game. I forgot. Shout out to Derek Brown. Derek Brown had that one play where, like, he literally hit the dude as he was getting the handoff. He got shot through the cannon.
He like grabbed him like, "Hey, punk,
what are you doing?
That's my lunch. That's my lunch." Get
threw him on the ground and just walked off.
A little rag dog.
That was the one time in that game where I was like, "Ooh!" Like, I was excited about it. And I was like, "That's my boy Derek Brown. You gotta keep these dudes." Like I was saying earlier in the show, you can't trade your top 10 picks. You can't keep the cycle of trading them off. You traded off DJ Moore. You traded McCaffrey away. Don't trade Derek Brown. Don't trade Brian Burns. Don't trade these dudes that are supposed to be the studs you're going to build whatever's next with. All these dudes are in their prime. Like, why are you trading them away? And if you are, you're not getting back what you're losing from them. So keep these dudes and build with them.
I hate to say this. I really do.
Oh, no.
I've experienced losing as a Pittsburgh Pirates fan for nearly my entire life. And it's starting to feel like this team is becoming the Pittsburgh Pirates of the NFL. Because as soon as the Pirates get a good player, right, they don't pay them or they just trade them. They live in purgatory forever. And I'm not saying that there's not a light at the end of this tunnel, but, man, that thing is very dim. And it's starting to feel like they may be just the Pirates of the NFL or the new Cleveland Browns, and that's even.
No, we don't want to be there. We don't want to be there. No. We want to be the Cleveland Browns of what they're doing right now.
Speaking of the Browns, remember how they had that guy had the jersey that just duct tape of all the quarterback names?
Yeah.
It's starting to become that with all the coaches, potentially, if Frank gets fired.
I need to go find that video. There was a video that came out maybe 10 years ago. It's a dude standing out in front of Cleveland Browns Stadium, and he's just going on and on about how, like, for some reason, like, the city of Cleveland allows this team to affect their, like, mentality, like, every Sunday. And he's just like, he's screaming, he's like, "You are a factory of sadness." And then he's just like, he's like, "I'll see you next week." And he, like, walks off, like he's just resigned to the fact that he's going to be there anyway. I'm going to find that video because I have in-laws in Cleveland, so I hear it all the time in terms of.
You know what this is? Browns, you know what? You want to know what this season is really doing? It's creating true diehard Panther fans.
I was waiting for somebody to say it.
That's what this season's all about.
This is a season for all the
diehard fans.
Yeah, we're
it's like
then in the heart.
Especially nowadays with social media, the receipts, they're out there. So the diehard fans are gonna be like, "Yeah, you can come to the house. You can come to the house. You can't. You can't. Yeah, you. No, you can't either." I remember what you said. Yeah, we riding. We going to the Super Bowl. You can't come.
The Panthers are starting to become the old Detroit Lions, man. Almost like could you say Arizona? What team was it that, like, kept firing guys like every 18 months? And then I think it was Detroit, where they just kind of fired a guy every year.
I mean, Houston had 2 and 1 or 2 one and done coaches, right? With Cully and Lovey. Right.
Yep. Yeah. Lovey. And then Cully came in for the interim, or no, that 1 year. And then he's gone too. And now you got it right with D'Amico Ryans. It's all about picking the right dude and the right culture. And just Houston just got it right. And sometimes it's luck, but getting the right quarterback, getting that right head coach, having all those picks, and you still had a little bit to begin with.
They'll never admit it, but Houston would take Bryce Young if he was available at number 2.
Yeah.
If he had the number 1 pick, if they had the number 1 pick, they were going to take Bryce Young.
They were to Bryce Young. So I'm not worried about Bryce Young in terms of did we make the right pick or whatever like that. That's a conversation for another day. I'm more worried about Bryce Young's safety at this point. I want to make sure Bryce is okay. Like, I want to see him in year 2 and year 3. I don't want to happen to him what happened to Kyler Murray. You know what I mean? Like I want to be able for them to try to build around him.
Speaking of Kyler Murray, that boy, he looked like he never got hurt.
Yo, what? I don't know what surgery happened to him, but yeah, you're right. It looks like he's almost faster. Like I saw him the other day. Like, yeah, he had a ACL.
They're gonna blow their chances for the Caleb Williams sweepstake.
Maybe. I mean, would you take Kyler Murray, or I know we're up against time? Would you take Kyler Murray or Caleb Williams?
I would. Here's what I would do. I would take Caleb Williams because by doing so, you can trade Kyler Murray, and you know you're going to get something out of it. You're going to get a franchise quarterback in that song. If you just keep Kyler,
I don't know. I'd almost rather keep Schuyler and draft Marvin Harrison Jr. to go with him.
You know what? The hell with that. You're right.
Because I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be he might be the number one player pick by the time we get to the draft. The way people are talking about him, so I'd probably
don't sleep on Stu's guy now. Bo Nix is starting to rise up those charts.
Oregon, watch out for Oregon because Oregon might spoil this whole thing, the playoff stuff, because they're floating around. And
this Oregon State game this weekend is a huge game for Bo Nix.
Yeah,
because Oregon State just lost to a very they lost a hard fought game against UW in the rain, elements, all that, and they probably pissed off. And it's it's a big game for Oregon as a state. Thoughts
and prayers too to Jordan Travis, the Florida State quarterback who got the leg injury.
That's tough.
Yeah, and
that's tough.
I hope that everything's fine and he gets a chance to play in the pros because he started that program around. Like
he turned that program all the way around.
And please do not drop Florida State because he got hurt. Because somebody brought this up to me the other day. They didn't drop. Well, the playoffs didn't exist, but they didn't drop Ohio State when they were on Cardell Jones. He was the third string quarterback.
Actually, that was the first year of the playoff.
The first year of the playoff.
Yep.
Like it was Barrett and somebody else, and then it was Cardell Jones that was playing for them. They won the whole thing. So don't penalize Florida State because they lost their quarterback. Let this play out. If they're an undefeated ACC champ, they deserve to be in the playoff. That means somebody's gonna get left out. Usually, you got to kind of pull a guy or pull a team in to make.
It'll probably be Ohio or Michigan.
Whoever loses, that's an elimination game Saturday. Ohio State, and Michigan. Whoever loses that, they're out. Like I don't see a way.
And then you see them Ducks, man. They just gotta win this game, beat UW, and then we might be in there too. So,
and then there's Alabama. That's always just kind of there.
Yeah, Alabama always creeping in the back.
They're going to win the whole thing. Watch. That's what happened. That's the script that I saw. They're gonna end up winning the SEC. They're gonna beat Georgia. They're gonna get in the playoff. They're gonna end up playing like Michigan or somebody in the national championship, and they're gonna win. And we're gonna be like, how did this happen again? And then Nick Saban's gonna
write all that down and post it so that way
I've seen this movie before. It's like Saw 5. Like I've already saw this before. I know how it's kind of gonna end. You see them like they take that loss early, and they just stay in the top 8 the rest of the year, and then right there at the very end, they snatch the SEC, they beat down whoever, and we're like, why do we even doubt them in the first place? It's gonna be Alabama.
Yeah.
It's just
all right.
I just saved a whole month of watching college football. So
baked turkey, smoked turkey, or fried turkey.
If it's done right, fried turkey. But a lot of people don't know that it's
baked.
They don't know how to do it. Baked and marinated. So the way we're gonna go.
Baked.
I'm on meatball duty Thursday, so I'm making meatballs.
Favorite Thanksgiving dish.
I'm smoking this turkey.
Or side.
Baked mac and cheese.
Me,
correctly.
It's homemade noodles.
Homemade noodles.
Mm-hmm.
What you talking about?
Basic noodles?
No. It's like I don't even know how to describe it because I have to actually figure this out for my wife because she's like, "What do you mean noodles?" But it's like they're like an off-white, yellowish type noodle, and it's kind of like it's not really cheesy. I don't even know how to describe it. But my grandmother, my dad's side, makes it, and it is out of this world good.
What? Like an egg noodle?
Yeah.
Like an egg noodle?
I really don't. It
kind of
looks
cheesy.
like that color. It looks cheesy. It's not cheesy.
Mine is can I get to the yams?
Oh,
Sweet yams.
no way.
I'm never gonna go either way.
I love that song.
I love
pumpkin
yams.
pie, right? Pumpkin pie,
candied yams.
No, gosh, no. Me and my wife talked about that the other day. I don't know how people love to taste the pumpkin. Like
what?
Nah,
I don't mess with pumpkin. Ew.
Nah, pumpkin spice latte,
Yeah, sweet potato
flavored.
pie. I'll do a sweet potato pie.
That's the
Because
worst.
you want to know what sweet potato
You know
pie
what you
is?
do? You know what you do?
Yams, sweet yams.
That's the worst. When you get a slice and you think it's sweet potato pie and you bite into it and it's pumpkin pie,
Yeah,
that's the worst.
Your nostrils
You
get
know
all
what you
like
do, real
weird
quick.
and get sick. Get nauseous.
You know what you do
What's
real
up?
quick? Pick them for Thursday night or Thursday, the turkey games.
Ooh, okay.
Packers, Lions. I'm going Lions.
Where is it? Detroit? Yeah, they always host it,
Detroit.
right? Yeah, I'm going Lions. They're playing too well. I don't
Stu,
even know
who
what
you
the Packers
got?
are doing.
Detroit. Cowboys, Commanders. I got Cowboys.
Where is that? Dallas always hosts that, right?
Dallas. Stu's on mute again.
I got. Oh, you can't hear me. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, we got you.
The Commanders. Ron Rivera about to ruin
Ooh,
it.
okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Ron Rivera about to come in there. Ron reading these tweets all of a sudden. They talking about he on a hot seat. He like, what?
That's when he
Man,
shines.
we're gonna go out there at Turkey Bowl and we're about to tear these legs off.
Des is going Cowboys, right?
Yeah, I'm going to go Cowboys.
And then last one we got. Go ahead, Gibson.
And then I was gonna say, if y'all didn't hear me about them Detroit Lions.
Yes,
Seahawks.
The team I want to see.
And the last one is Niners at Seahawks.
Boy, the 49ers, boy.
Yeah, because the Seahawks have kind of fallen off a little bit, haven't they? The past month.
Yeah.
And the Niners getting healthy again.
The Niners got defense.
I'm going Niners.
I'm going Niners. Brock Purdy just had a perfect passer rating last Sunday.
And last one, Egg Bowl. Ole Miss, Mississippi State. It's Ole Miss, right?
I don't know enough about. I'm
gonna go Mississippi State.
I'm just gonna go with Ole Miss.
You'll put some money on that.
Ole Miss was ranked top 10. Ole Miss was ranked top 10.
I put $10 on there. Put $10 on that.
Snail Howell on Thanksgiving could be good. Sweet potato pie is dope. Domino said it best. I love that song. Matter of fact, people picking the Commanders. Actually, yams and sweet potatoes are different. What are you talking about, Willie? Yams and sweet potatoes are the same thing, bro. Ain't they? Now Willie gonna have me question this all day. I'm gonna be asking random people in Walmart, are yams and sweet potatoes the same thing?
Listen, you take the sweet potatoes and you cook them down, brother.
It depends on where you grew up. I think yams is if you're in the South.
In the
sweet
season,
potato pie is a northern thing.
In the season of giving thanks, thank you guys every week for tuning in to us.
Yes,
we have a blast doing this, and
yes,
and we couldn't do it without you guys.
And it's been and I know that it's been really rough doing this. Trust me, I know. I've been hosting this thing for 4 years, and I've yet to have a winning season while we've been doing it. So trust me, I totally get it. But yeah, we definitely respect the fact people are coming in and checking us out. It gets a little bigger each week. Shout out to Bleav for giving us some opportunities to put it in different platforms. And if you haven't yet, go follow us on our social media stuff. I'm hoping
Desmond, before you leave, yams are actually different than a potato.
Well, how did
they're root?
A
yam is a root.
I thought a potato was a root.
Yeah. So sweet potato pie is not a yam.
Wait,
they just look like each other.
Potatoes are root vegetables.
All my life, I've never thought about it. All my life, all I know is them yams come in that can.
Oh no, not the canned yams. No,
but y'all are definitely turkey over this stupid ham craze, right? I mean,
nah. I mean, sometimes it's okay to have both.
It's got to be
on the side, but yeah, you got to be Thanksgiving. True yams are a part of an entirely different genus. Discord. Okay, he went scientific on me. I'm gonna believe you, Willie.
Man, that's a whole nother language right there.
Morning glory.
Come on, Willie.
Out here taking us to school, man.
There's some hieroglyphics.
Yeah,
Willie, what in the heck is an impomenia?
When Willie first typed that in, he was like, "They're gonna say that they're the same," and I'm gonna have it in the chamber, ready to go as soon as they say it.
Willie, I appreciate you, man, keeping us educated out here. Because
Willie's one of the
I never even thought of it. I just said yams and sweet potato pie.
It's a Google.
Give it to me.
He just went to Google. So on that note, I think we're going to stop it right there. This has been a Thanksgiving week edition of the Bleav in Panthers podcast, brought to you by Bet Online. We'll be back next Tuesday. Panthers, Titans. I think it's on Fox. I think it's a 1 o'clock kick. Just check your listings. Or, like Willie said, use Google and check that so you can get the right times. We'll see if the Panthers can get a win. Maybe enjoy your holiday. The turkey, enjoy the yams, the mac and cheese, all that good stuff. And go follow us on our social media. Bleav in Panthers on Twitter. Bleav in Carolina Panthers on Instagram. And am I missing one? No, that's it. So yeah, go follow us there. We'll maybe start doing some shorts or something like that. You can catch that throughout the week as well, where we can talk about random things outside of the Panthers, because Lord knows we're going to probably need to start doing that in the next 2 months while we get through the rest of this season. If something happens after we go off the air today or through the week, you might see us again before the week is over. But to Schuyler's point, I think we're probably good for a week before something like that happens. So for Schuyler Callihan, for Jonathan Stewart, I'm Desmond Johnson. You've been watching and listening to the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast here on the Bleav Podcast Networks. Keep pounding.